Episode 4 of Stone of Tears, read by John Atkins, aka the Dark Joker Knight. The commander and his 8 men rushed up. A few of them were bloody. One had a ragged claw cut right through the metal of his breastplate. They all cast an eye to the Skreeling frozen in the pool. Nice bit of work, Wizard Zorander. The commander gave a small nod and a smile of respect. There are a few over there who are still alive. Is there anything I can do? Is there anything you can do for them? I meant to say, sir. I'll have a look, Commander. Have your men use their battle axes to hack that thing to pieces before it figures out how to melt the ice. His eyes went wide. You mean it's still alive? Zed grunted to indicate that it was so. The sooner the better, Commander. The men already had their crescent axes unhooked from their belts, waiting for the order. The commander gave them a nod, and they charged onto the ice, swinging before they slid to a stop. He lowered his voice. Wizard Zorander, what is that thing? Zed looked from the man's face over to Chase, who was listening intently. He held the boundary warden's gaze. It's a Skreeling. Chase didn't show any reaction. The boundary warden rarely did. Zed turned back to the commander. The man's blue eyes were wide. The Skreelings are loose, he whispered. Wizard Zorander, you cannot be serious. Zed studied the man's face, seeing scars he hadn't seen before. Scars earned in battles to the death. For a Deharan soldier, there was rarely any other kind. This man was not used to letting fear show in his eyes, even in the face of death. Zed sighed. He hadn't slept in days. After the quads had come and tried to capture Kaelin, and she thought Richard had been killed, she had gone into the Kandar, the Blood Rage, killing their attackers. She, Chase, and Zed had walked for 3 days and nights to reach the palace for her to exact vengeance. There was no stopping a confessor in the grip of the Kandar, the ancient mix of magics. Then they had been captured and discovered Richard alive. That was only yesterday, but it seemed forever ago. Darken Rahul had worked all night drawing forth the magic of the Orden from the 3 boxes as they had watched helpless, and only this morning was he killed by opening the wrong box. Killed by the wizard's first rule wielded by Richard. Proof that Richard had the gift, even if Richard didn't believe it. For only one with the gift could use the wizard's first rule on a wizard of Darken Rahul's talent. Zed glanced over momentarily at the men hacking at the Skreeling in the ice. What is your name, Commander? The man stiffened proudly to attention. Commander General Tarmac, first file of the Palace Guard. First file? What are they? Pride stiffened the man's jaw even more. We are the ring of steel around Lord Rahul himself, Wizard Zorander. 2,000 strong. We fall to a man before harm gets a glance at Lord Rahul. Zed nodded. Commander General Tarmac, a man in your position knows that one of responsibilities of rank is to bear the burden of knowledge in silence and solitude. I do. Your knowledge that this creature is a Skreeling is one of those burdens, for the time being. Tarmac let out a heavy breath. I understand. He looked over to the people on the floor across the hall. About the injured, Wizard Zorander. Zed had respect for a soldier who held concern for wounded innocents. His disregard before had been duty, not callousness. His instinct had been to meet the attack. Zed started across the hall with Tarmac at his side. You know Darken Rahul is dead. Yes, I was in the grand courtyard earlier today. I saw the new Lord Raoul before he flew away on a red dragon. And you will serve Richard as loyally as you have served in the past? He is Rahul, is he not? He is Rahul. And he has the gift? He does. To the last man, before Harm gets a glance at him, Tarmac nodded. Zed glanced over. He will not be an easy man to serve under. He is headstrong. He is a Rahul. That says the same thing. Zed smiled in spite of himself. He is also my grandson, although he does not know it yet. As a matter of fact, he doesn't even know that he is a Rahul, or the Lord Rahul. Richard might not take well to the position he finds himself in. But someday he is going to need you, General. I would take it as a personal favor, Commander, General Tarmac, if you would give him a little understanding. Tarmac's eyes surveyed the area, ever ready for any new danger. I would give him my life. I think understanding would serve him better in the beginning. He thinks himself as nothing more than a woods guide. He is a leader by nature and by birth, but not only by his own appraisal. He will not want anything to do with it, but it has come to him nonetheless. At last, a smile came to Tarmac's face. Done. He stopped and turned to the wizard. I am a Daharan soldier. I serve the Lord Rahul, but the Lord Rahul must also serve us. I am steel against steel. He must be the magic against magic. Without the steel, he may still survive, but without the magic, we will not. Now tell me, what is a Skreeling doing out of the underworld? Zed sighed and at last nodded. Your former Lord Rahul was meddling with dangerous magic, underworld magic. He tore the veil between this world and the underworld. Bloody fool! He is supposed to serve us, not take us into eternal night. Someone should have killed him. Someone did. Richard. Tarmac grunted. Then Lord Rahul is already serving us. A few days ago, some would have viewed that as treason. It is a greater treason delivering the living to the dead. Yesterday, you would have killed Richard to keep him from harming Dr. Rahul. And yesterday, he would have killed me to get at his foe. But now we serve each other, Wizard Zorander. Only a fool walks into the future backward. Zed nodded and offered a small but warm smile of respect. But then his eyes narrowed as he leaned closer. If the veil is not closed, Commander, and the Keeper is loosed on the world, everyone will share the same fate. But it won't just be Dahara, but the whole world that is consumed. And from what I've read of the prophecies, Richard may be the only one who can close the veil. You just remember that if Harm tries to get a glance at Richard. Tarmac's eyes were ice. Steel against steel. He may be the magic against the magic. Good. You have it right. Zed surveyed the dead and dying as he approached. It was impossible to avoid walking through the blood. His heart ached at seeing the hurt. Only one Skreeling. What if more come? Commander, send for some healers. If there are more here than I can tend to. Already done, Wizard Zorander. Zed nodded and began checking the living. Soldiers of the first file were spread out among the bodies, pulling the dead, many of whom were their own, out of the way and comforting the hurt. Zed put his fingers to the sides of foreheads to feel the injuries, to feel what a healer could care for and what required more. He touched a young soldier laboring to bleed. He touched a young soldier laboring to breathe through a gurgle of blood. Zed grunted at what he felt. He glanced down and saw rib bones pulled through a fist-sized hole in his breastplate. Zed's stomach wanted to erupt. Tarmac knelt on the other side of the young man. The wizard's eyes flicked up at the commander, and the other nodded his understanding. The young man's remaining breaths of life numbered in the few dozen. Go on. I'll stay with the lad. Zed moved on as Tarmac gripped the young man's hand in his own and began telling a reassuring lie. 3 women in long brown skirts sewn with rows of pockets came in a rush. Their mature faces took in the scene without flinching. With bandages and poultices pulled out from their big pockets, the 3 women descended on the wounded and began stitching and administering potions. Most wounds were within the skill of a woman to heal, or else beyond the skill of the wizard. Zed asked one of the 3, the one who looked least likely to pay heed to the protests, to go see Chase. Zed could see him sitting on the bench across the hall, his chin against his chest, Rachel sitting on the floor with her arms wrapped around his leg. Zed and the other 2 healers moved among the people on the floor, helping where they could, passing on where they couldn't. One of the healers called to him. She was hunched over a middle-aged woman who was trying to wave her away. "Please," she was saying in a weak voice, "help the others. I am fine. I only need to rest. Please, help the others." Zed felt the wetness of his blood-soaked robes against his knees as he knelt beside her. She pushed his hands away with one of hers. The other held her guts from spilling out of the ripping wound in her abdomen. "Please, there are others who should be helped." Zed lifted an eyebrow to her ashen face. A fine gold chain through her hair held a blue stone against her forehead. The blue stone matched her eyes, so it almost made her look to have 3 eyes. The wizard thought he recognized the stone and wondered if it could be true or only a bauble bought on a whim. He had seen one wearing the stone as a calling, and he had not seen one wearing the stone as a calling in a very long time. Surely one this young couldn't know what it proclaimed. "I am Wizard Zedekis Zulrander. And who are you, child, to give me orders?" Her face paled even more. "Forgive me, wizard," she calmed as Zed touched his fingers to her forehead. The pain caught his breath so sharply that he jerked his fingers away. He had to struggle to keep the tears of hurt from showing. He knew without a doubt now she wore the stone in calling. The stone, to match the color of her eyes, worn over the forehead as if the mind's eye was a talisman to